Dolls have been around for centuries. Every culture seems to create these little imitations of humans, and all seem to do so for the same purpose: to provide companionship, entertainment, and comfort for our children. Many of the claims are from dolls that first had a child that loved them and treated them as real. This belief allowed something to inhabit the doll. Another common claim is that the spirit of the child inhabits the doll after death, especially if the child died young and unexpectedly. Sometimes something else uses the doll to bring attention to itself. Often people experience this phenomenon when they buy an antique doll at a garage sale or online. But caution should be taken when buying such a doll, because once the haunting starts it can be incredibly difficult to reverse. In this list we count down 5 haunted dolls caught on tape. This video was sent to me by a woman called Lisa. She purchased this doll at a local car boot sale in Long Eaton, Derbyshire. Whilst looking around a car boot sale, she came across a doll. She stopped to look at it because it was pretty and it reminded her of her grandmother who collected these types of dolls. The doll had an asking price of £65. Thinking that this was very overpriced, she questioned the seller. It turned out that the seller was a haunted collector, and the reason the asking price was so high was because the doll was very active. The seller said that the doll had likely become haunted because of unfinished business. Not believing in the paranormal and thinking only of her grandma, Lisa ignored the seller and decided to go ahead and buy the doll. Once she purchased the doll, the seller warned her to be nice and caring towards it or bad things would happen. Lisa placed the doll in her bag and left. On the way home, Lisa placed the doll in the back of her car and felt excited that she was in possession of a supposedly haunted doll. Once home, she told her partner about the purchase. Her partner was disturbed by it and asked why she'd bought it. Not wanting to have an argument, she stated that it reminded her of her gran, and conveniently left out the fact that it might be haunted. She didn't realise it at the time, but during this conversation her partner noticed their dog beginning to act very strangely. That night the doll was placed on a shelf in the back room. At 3 AM Lisa awoke to the sound of her dog barking. When she got up to investigate, she could see that the doll had fallen over and the dog was staring intently at it. She assumed that the doll had fallen over and made the dog jump, so she placed the doll on a stand and went back to bed. The following morning the dog was still acting peculiar. It kept trying to hide itself under the furniture. Remembering what the seller said, Lisa worried that the dog's behaviour may have something to do with the doll. To appease the dog, she moved the doll into her bedroom. While lying in bed the following night, Lisa had a dark sensation come over her. She was unusually cold and could feel something watching her. She eventually managed to fall asleep but was shortly woken up by a loud banging noise. To her surprise, the doll had fallen over again. Lisa began to worry that perhaps the doll really was haunted. To test this theory, she decided to record the doll. After a few attempts, she managed to record this footage. I genuinely feel sorry for Lisa, because it sounds like she was just trying to honour the memory of her grandma, and has instead found herself with something potentially dangerous. Take a look and let me know what you think. The owner of this doll didn't want to give out their name or gender, so I will call them Jack. They started the message by telling me they are from Leesburg, Florida. Unnervingly, the doll has a striking resemblance with the infamous Annabelle doll. For those of you who don't know the story of the Annabelle doll, according to claims originating from Ed and Lorraine Warren, a student nurse was given the Raggedy Ann doll in 1970, but after the doll behaved strangely, a psychic medium told the student that the doll was inhabited by the spirit of a dead girl named Annabelle Higgins. Supposedly, the student nurse and her roommate tried to accept and nurture the possessed doll, but eventually became frightened by the doll's malicious behaviour and contacted the Warrens, who removed the doll to their museum after pronouncing it demonically possessed. Not only does Jack's doll look similar to the Annabelle doll, it also possesses some of the same haunted qualities. Jack came in possession of the doll because it was passed down to him by his mother. Jack stated that his mother was a strange woman. She kept to herself and didn't have many friends. She was extremely religious and would constantly use the controversial Ouija board to try and contact deceased relatives. After she passed away, pretty much all of her possessions were sold and given away to charity, except for a doll that was given to Jack. One evening while watching TV, he saw a large shadow move in the corner of his eye, but every time he would try and catch a glimpse of it, he would miss it. Strangely, this shadow always seemed to point him in the direction of the doll that was placed in the next room. After this happened several times, he placed the doll in the room with him and the shadow activity stopped, but then he noticed the doll itself started to move. Over the course of the next few days, the doll's actions became more sinister. A burning sulfur smell could be smelt throughout the house, and Jack started to get excruciating headaches. He could hear whispers and burn marks were appearing on objects around the house. Jack managed to set up equipment and was able to capture this footage. Jack's message ended with him saying that he's currently trying to seek help. This story is a little different because the individual in this story intentionally purchased a haunted doll. His name is Mark and he resides in Massachusetts. Being a horror fan and having seen many haunted doll videos, he wanted to see what the fuss was about. He said his fascination really began when he was told about the haunted doll Mandy. This doll was made in England or Germany between 1910 and 1920. Mandy was owned for many years by a woman who claimed that she could hear the doll crying from the basement in the middle of the night. The woman donated Mandy to the Cornell Museum in British Columbia in 1991. At the museum, Mandy continues to cause mischief for the employees. People claim that lunches and other items often go missing, and the items usually turn up elsewhere in the building. The museum staff claim that Mandy couldn't be displayed with other dolls because she had a tendency to knock other dolls over. For this reason, Mandy has her own display case far away from the other dolls in the exhibit. Visitors to the museum say her eyes will blink or follow you wherever you walk. It's hard to photograph her as she likes to mess with video or camera equipment. As a result, many pictures of her are completely blurred or just black. After hearing about the Mandy doll, Mark explained that he wanted his own doll that would cause mischief. Unlike all the other people on this list, he actually searched for a haunted doll. He found one and paid over $100. After receiving it, he said that he immediately started to do Ouija board sessions in order to find out who or what was possessing the doll. On the first few attempts, nothing happened, but eventually he began to have nightmares about being murdered. This led him to believe that the person inhabiting the doll was murdered and has unfinished business. He set up a camera shortly after one of the Ouija board sessions, and was able to capture his doll moving. The person in this message didn't specify their location, but told me their name is Anna. Anna started her story by saying that she purchased a doll on Gumtree because she is a collector, although a collector of regular dolls, not haunted dolls. Growing up, she'd had a doll's house and ever since then has always liked dolls. When Anna purchased the doll, the seller didn't tell her that it was haunted until after it had been paid for and dispatched. When the doll arrived, Anna put it in her room and several weeks passed where nothing happened. Anna claims to have started to doubt that the doll was ever haunted. Anna explained that she has OCD and can always tell when something has been moved in her home. At first she began to notice small things such as pencils and books moving, but then it escalated into bigger things such as the sofas appearing to be out of place. Waking up one morning, she noticed that she had 3 scratches on her stomach. These scratches started to become a regular occurrence. They would always come in threes, and would appear on her back, stomach, arms and legs. Along with these scratches, she said that sometimes it would look like she'd been bitten during the night. After setting up a camera and recording for several nights, she managed to capture this video of the doll. She would also have recurring episodes of sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is a phenomenon in which an individual, either while falling asleep or awakening, briefly experiences an inability to move, speak or react. It's often accompanied by terrifying hallucinations where the person is unable to react due to paralysis, and physical experiences such as a strong current running through the upper body. These hallucinations often involve a person or supernatural creature suffocating or terrifying the individual, accompanied by a feeling of pressure on one's chest and difficult breathing. Another common hallucination involves intruders entering one's room or lurking outside one's window, accompanied by a feeling of dread. After these horrible experiences, Hana said that she decided to sell the doll, and thankfully the activity has since stopped. If this story is true, then it's truly terrifying. This story features a young girl. The mother who sent this message told me not to use her daughter's real name, so I'll call her Hana. The two of them lived alone in a 2-bedroom house and were very happy. Things soon changed, however, when the mother purchased a doll at a yard sale. Her daughter became attached to the doll almost instantly. She would take the doll with her everywhere, and asked if the doll could stay in her room. The mother allowed this as she thought it was cute that Hana had become friends with the doll. One day while walking past Hana's room, she couldn't help but overhear a conversation the child was having with the doll. For some reason she could hear Hana crying and apologizing. After rushing into the room, the mother comforted her daughter, but for some reason Hana seemed angry at her mother. Later that night, after Hana had gone to bed, the mother could hear her crying once again. She went upstairs to ask what was wrong, but again Hana was hesitant to talk about what was troubling her. A few days after this, things seemed to get worse. The mother was suspicious of Hana's relationship with the doll, and decided to film her daughter's bedroom. To her surprise, she captured the doll moving. Several weeks passed and Hana was spending an unusual amount of time sitting in her room staring at the doll. The mother then discovered drawings of herself and her daughter, and in these drawings there was always a large cross drawn over her. Confused and starting to become upset, she tried to ask Hana what was happening, but all Hana would say was "I'm fine." After discovering more pictures, the mother noticed they all had one thing in common. They all featured the doll. The mother was scared, so she decided to remove the doll from Hana's room. This sparked an immediate reaction from her daughter. Hana started to panic and scream that he would come for her if she didn't get the doll back. Shocked and confused, the mother asked Hana what she was talking about. Hana explained that the man that sits at the end of her bed uses the doll to talk to her, and that if it was not returned he would be angry. By this point, the mother was certain that the doll was haunted, and decided the doll had to go. She took Hana to her friend's house and then returned home to burn the doll. When Hana came home after the doll was destroyed, her mother noticed an immediate improvement. Although she does still get occasional nightmares, her daughter is gradually starting to forget about the man at the end of her bed. So that was 5 haunted dolls caught on tape moving. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more countdown videos.